Hello and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Andrea and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Andrea, and hello, everyone who is with me in the Zoom room right now, and those of you watching on YouTube. Whether you're watching now or later, we appreciate you showing up and being a part of the energy that is Unity of Fredericksburg. Our broadcast date today is Sunday, September the 7th, 2025. And to start off today, I have a little news story that I found on the Spiritual Passages regular email that I received. Here's the title of this story: Satellite Beams Solar Power to Earth. So I'm going to read this to you. It sounds like the stuff of sci-fi novels, but solar power has been harvested in space and beamed to Earth for the first time. The 200 milliwatts transmitted wirelessly from space couldn't even boil a kettle, but scientists say it's proof of concept and brings us one step closer to the ultimate goal of beaming nonstop solar energy down to Earth. The experiment was conducted by the California Institute of Technology, that's Caltech, which harvested electricity from a solar panel fixed to a satellite and then transmitted it to the rooftop of a lab in California. So let's have a little spiritual reflection on that. Again, this is from the Spiritual Passages website. From the stillness of space, a stream of energy found its way to Earth. This is how the movement of spirit arrives, as a beam of possibility, shimmering with promise. In prayer, even the smallest shift in thought can be a proof of concept that we have dominion, evidence that our alignment with divine energy is real and active. What begins as a quiet affirmation can grow into a steady, unstoppable flow of good. The Caltech experiment illustrates that every proof of concept, whether in science or in the soul, is a seed of the infinite, affirming that greater good is unfolding. So there's your little news story to get us started today. Our topic today is the power of zeal. And I chose that news story because it certainly is a wonderful example of human enthusiasm and ingenuity in innovation with technology, right? So we're in the midst of our third quarter here at Unity of Fredericksburg, and we have been following Unity's 12 powers. For those of you who are new to the 12 powers, the 12 powers is what I call a study set that was developed by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore, and it's a list of 12 infinite aspects of the universe that also are expressed in each and every one of us. So we've been talking about them one at a time. Today we're talking about the power of zeal. And you know I like to look things up, right? So the first thing I did was like, let's get a definition of that word zeal. So the definition that the internet provided me is great energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause or an objective. So from our Unity sources, one of the sources we've been using regularly in our talks is Power Up by the Reverend Doctors Paul Hasselbeck and Cher Holton. So in that book, they define the power of zeal as the ability to be enthusiastic and passionate, as well as to inspire and motivate ourselves, right? So if we can think of zeal as sort of the roar of the engine when we start up a project, start up something, and that enthusiasm is kind of zeal is sort of the cosmic cheerleader of the spiritual realm. One of the definitions that Charles Fillmore in his book, The 12 Powers, provides is zeal is the impulse to go forward, the urge behind all things. And in the book Divine Audacity, I've got all kinds of books to show you today, right? By the Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. She shares another definition from Charles Fillmore that comes from the Revealing Word. And here's what he says in the Revealing Word: zeal, intensity, ardor, enthusiasm, the inward fire of the soul that urges humankind onward, regardless of the intellectual mind of caution and conservatism. So I like how it sort of presents zeal as that impulse, despite what we might be limiting ourselves with analyzing things. So I think that's an important point. So today we're going to be looking at zeal because zeal shows up in a lot of different ways. It shows up as very loud, but also as quiet. We can be using it too much or too little. We can also look at how we partner our power of zeal with our other spiritual powers. But I want to start off with the teachings of Jesus to give us a little founding in scripture before we go forward. So, as a part of the Sermon on the Mount in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 37, Jesus says, "Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no." Seems pretty simple, right? So we can certainly talk about that in the unity practices that we talk about using affirmations and the old term for denials, or currently we tend to use the word release. So the yes, yes, and no, no definitely show up in that. By the way, next week, the topic will be that power of release. So more on that next week. But zeal is our spiritual yes. It's that moment when we say yes. Uh, Another quote from Charles Fillmore: zeal is the affirmative impulse of existence. Its command is go forward. And I also want to mention there was something that I found in this book. Now, I haven't mentioned this book very often, or maybe not at all, because it's not a unity book. It kind of doesn't really follow unity teachings, but there are some goodies in here. It's by a gentleman named William Warch, and it's a book from the 70s called How to Use Your 12 Gifts from God. And one of the things that William Warch talks about is that zeal results in joy and enthusiasm. So there's a definite link between our power of zeal and joy and enthusiasm. And I think that's an important thing for us to remember, because we can be out there doing lots of things but not feeling joy. So there's some interesting observations we can make with ourselves when we notice whether joy is showing up when we're doing certain things. So I want to show you some examples of all of this that we're talking about today with some readers theater. So have a scene that is in a video format today that our Zoom host Jason is going to play for us. This scene, this short play, is called Zip and Zeal. So stand by and Jason's going to get that going for us.
Morning, folks. Now, you all have seen reality TV, right? Well, I'm here to show you what it's really like to be a fairy godmother. I see some of you don't comprehend that a fairy godmother is a legitimate professional. I am fully trained in all the aspects of the divine ideas known as the 12 powers. And let me tell you, I don't have time to go chasing people down like those wannabe fairy godmothers you see in the movies. No sir, no ma'am. When people need my help, they need to show some respect and make an appointment. Oh, here comes one now.
Hey, oh, so great to meet you. I know I'm a bit early for the appointment, but I was hoping we might be able to get a running start. You see, I had this little startup operation, well, one of several, actually, and I just started off more kind of like a jump start, but then it sizzled out, and now I'm looking for ways to get a kick start, and maybe I should just start fresh with another project. I have a ton of great ideas.
Oh, geez. This is almost too easy. You see what's going on over here? Honey, you got way too much get up and go going on up in here. Enthusiasm is a good thing, yes, but too much starve me up with no staying power gets you nowhere. And where exactly do you find your wisdom?
Well, I just start out with what feels right, and then I... Wisdom?
You see? I bet none of you ever had this issue, huh? Now, you just stay right there. Now, stay still. Now take some deep breaths. Take some deep breaths and focus on one word. One word, that's all. There you go. Keep it going. Now be still. Keep it going. I got another customer pulling up here.
I can see you're busy. I didn't mean to intrude. I can come back another time.
This one's too cool for school. Let's see if I can get him to talk. Now, hold on now. You've come this far. No need for a wasted trip. Just tell Mama what's on your mind.
Well, I've never consulted a professional like yourself on an issue like this before. Maybe I'll just come back.
Just cough it up, Buster.
Fine, okay then. Without conceit, I am able to say that I have achieved all that I planned to this point in life. I have the career, I have the finances, the condo, the car, and I'm thankful to be fit. And yet I still seem to be missing something.
Oh, a planner, huh? Straight up the ladder. So, how do you feel about all your accomplishments?
Feel. Satisfied?
Satisfied. Okay, what do you do for fun?
Fun. Well, I haven't actually added that to the calendar.
All right. What you need is a little enthusiasm, a sprinkle of zeal to add to all your accomplishments. Here you go. Before you start anything on your calendar, repeat this affirmation and keep doing it until you mean it and feel it.
Right now?
Uh-huh.
I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore?
Yeah, that was written by an old guy in his 90s with more vim and vigor than you can even imagine, apparently. So, it's your choice. Will you give it a try?
In his 90s? Impressive. Okay, I'll give it a try.
Oh, and while you're at it, take a lunch with this lady over here. She's got more zip and zeal than a firecracker on the 4th of July.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
She's cute. You'll like her.
All right, I'll do that.
All in a day's work.
Okay, all right. Well, I hope you will all enjoyed that little bit of Reader's Theater. It's all about kind of using our zeal too much or not enough. So, if we think about the woman in the scene, she was all about starting up, right? Starting, very little focus. So she's kind of overusing that starting function, and she's not partnering it with, with some wisdom, some understanding, some staying power, right? So one of the characters, if you will, from the Bible is the Apostle Paul, who is often presented as a zealot or zealous about. So he was extremely passionate, being against the early Christian movement until he had a tremendous spiritual awakening. And then he became a very passionate and zealous advocate of the early Christian movement. So we have an example there of kind of using your zeal in one direction and another direction. So when we're using it kind of too much or not partnering it with other aspects of our divinity, we can be impulsive or compulsive and overly ambitious. We can be starting lots of projects, lots of little projects, but dropping out, not finishing, moving on without finishing up. So these are all examples. I don't know if they feel familiar to you at all. Might ask yourself, do I have any of that going on? Any unfinished projects sitting around? Here's an affirmation that you could use to kind of work with that. My enthusiasm is informed by wisdom and guided by understanding and love. I'll say it again for you. My enthusiasm is informed by wisdom and guided by understanding and love. And then in our Reader's Theater, we've got this other fellow. Now he's accomplished a lot of things, right? He's taken, and yet his tone is really flat. There's no joy, there's no enthusiasm. So his reasons for doing this are, that he believes that these are the things he has to accomplish with, but there's no joy. It's listless. There's little zeal for life. He'll do things that he feels like he has to do, but doesn't have that inner fire going. So you might recognize that in yourself or in those close to you if you have a difficulty getting started because maybe you're overthinking things or you're anxious about things. So here's an affirmation for those moments. The quickening, vitalizing enthusiasm of spirit is working in me, transforming me into the newness of life. That's an affirmation that I adapted from Cora Fillmore. I'll say it again. The quickening, vitalizing enthusiasm of spirit is working in me, transforming me into the newness of life. So there's kind of how you could work with yourself if you're kind of too starting up or not enough. So our power of zeal is definitely tied to our sense of drive and often to our sense of purpose. Here's a quote again from Charles Fillmore in 12 Powers. The universal desire for achievement, giving its mighty impulse to all things, is divinely good. So if you're one of those people that kind of has a lot of things on your list that you want to accomplish, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. You just need to temper it so it doesn't get, the fire burning too hot, right? Or fizzling out before you're done. Zeal is definitely tied to our sense of having a passion for something. And most of us have experienced having a passion for something, even if it is your morning cup of tea or coffee that you want to have just right. You might have a hobby or a certain activity that you're really passionate for. It could be some media, like a series of books you're reading or a television program, or it could be collecting things or learning things. All of these are examples of a passion. And Zeal can also show up as we saw in the Reader's Theater, as kind of louder and faster in appearance, but it can also be more quiet and gradual. So I think it's important to remind us of that. So the loud and fast, of course, we all notice because it's loud and fast, right? So one person that came to mind to me as I was putting this together, this dates me a little bit, but I'm betting a number of you remember from years ago, an exercise instructor and TV personality named Richard Simmons, who would show up on every TV show wearing shorts and a tank top and encouraging everyone to exercise, right? So talk about lots of zeal. And he had his own TV show, and he had a series of aerobic exercise videos called Sweatin' to the Oldies. So great example of kind of loud and fast power of zeal. So does zeal show up in your personality or in your life as loud and fast? So maybe you're a sports fan and you really get into it on game day, or perhaps you do something that's very active, like playing music or dancing or something like that. It might be, might and might not. Some of us kind of have responses to loud and fast where we think it's good or we don't. So how do you view it when you witness zeal showing up as loud and fast? And how does it shift your perspective if you see it as an expression of zeal? So, from the book of Divine Audacity, one of the quotes that I liked for this week is, although zeal can be observed in an effervescent personality, the potency of zeal comes from within. Zeal is an inner flame. So one of the best examples that I found in preparing this week comes from the book Power Up. And here's what they have to say about Mother Teresa. Someone like Mother Teresa is usually viewed as a good example of supportive and uplifting use of the ability of zeal. Her work in the streets of Calcutta demonstrated the use of zeal from the moment she chose to see the face of Jesus in that first person she lifted in her arms. It blossomed into a lifelong passion, again, using the ability of zeal. So, if zeal in your life shows up more quiet, and it might show up as devotion. Devotion is absolutely an expression of this ability of zeal. So it could be showing up with quieter activities that you enjoy, say gardening or reading or your prayer time, or just the energy that you put into caring for your home, your family, your pet, tidying up. This is all examples of a quieter form of zeal that we might frame as devotion. So just think about when you have different people in your life. If you have someone who shows up in a quiet sort of way, when everyone else is, being loud and having a good time, what if you viewed how they're showing up or how you show up in certain circumstances as a quieter form of zeal, rather than thinking, wow, why aren't you screaming and yelling like everyone? Right? So just want to open us up to observing and not always kind of judging by as someone's being too quiet or too loud. It's like, if we look at this as a factor of zeal, maybe that opens us up to more possibility, right? Now, we have talked about how zeal, it is important to partner your zeal with your other divine qualities, right? Because it can get kind of out of control. So here are a few quotes to support that. So Cora Fillmore from Christ Enthroned in Man says, zeal is the power that incites the other faculties to greater and even greater activity. So you can see that it can be sort of like the igniter for other aspects of your spiritual nature. Zeal is there to start the engines. And then when we have a project that we want to keep going, then we're using our power of life to continue to give it energy, strength to maintain over time, power to define our purpose and keep ourselves on path. All of our powers working together. Charles Fillmore reminds us, let your zeal be tempered with wisdom, right? So too much enthusiasm without that power of wisdom saying, is that really how many cups of coffee does one need in a day? All right, we know you love your coffee, maybe not so much. So Linda Martello Whitsett in Divine Audacity talks about zeal must be tempered by understanding and wisdom. So have any of us ever charged into something without really understanding the context? I bet we could all say yes to that in some way. So, how can we amplify our zeal? One is develop a zeal for self-care. Charles Fillmore talks extensively in his chapter on zeal about how important it is for people who are in service to others, who are taking care of other people all the time, to remember to apply that zeal for care to ourselves as well. Another way that we can really tune into this spiritual capacity for zeal is tuning into nature, because nature is expressing that enthusiasm regularly. If you think about the changes of the season and the springtime blooms and summer blooms, and then all of the leaves changing color in the fall, you can see all of these as natural expressions. So if you're feeling not too enthusiastic, spending time in nature, it's a great way to invigorate yourself. And also just have a passion for having a spiritual practice, right? All of these capacities that we're talking about can come alive and be a part of us even more as we spend time in the silence, in the stillness, and allow ourselves to tap into our divine nature. So we're going to do that together. And to warm us up for our time of meditation, I'm going to read a little bit first from Divine Audacity to get ourselves ready, okay? I am the magnificent power of zeal. I am enthusiastic, audacious, and devoted. I eagerly awaken each morning on purpose, exuberant about the choices ahead of me. I boldly think, envision, and act in the direction of my intentions. I devote my thought, energy, and time toward being a blessing and using my gifts and talents for good. I am the ever-flowing, always forward moving vibration of possibility. I remain attentive to the present moment, knowing that my focus on the present is my ticket to my desired future. So let's take a deep breath right there. We're going to move into our time of meditation together. So focus on your breath for a few moments right now. It's just coming to the present. You can do that by just noticing the pressure of your body in the seat, your feet on the floor. Feel the clothing against your skin. We've been following a prayer method that was presented by Cora Fillmore in Christ Enthroned in Man. And we're going to continue that today by focusing right on the crown of the head, right at the top of your head. If you want, you can place your hand there. Just focus light right there on the top of your head. It's the light of spirit, so we might call it a white light, but it's not a white without color. It is a white light that is comprised of all colors of the rainbow. Right there, the top of your head. And we affirm here, divine nature is awakening within me. Divine nature is awakening within me. We shift our attention just slightly down to the front of the forehead. This is the seat of understanding and some other powers too. But right here, we're going to focus on understanding with this rainbow white light as we affirm divine. I am aware of divine nature awakening in me. Say it again. I am aware of divine nature awakening within me. Now we're going to let this light shift just slightly, kind of in a diagonal direction through the skull. We're going backwards and down right to the base of the skull and the top of the neck, right where they connect. You can put your hand there if you wish. This area is the seat of spiritual zeal. And it lends particular energy to our sensory nervous system, to our ears, our eyes, our nose, our mouth. The color of the light that we're focusing right now is orange. Orange like the rising sun. Orange like the fire of passion. The glow of devotion. And as you have your hand right there and you're envisioning this light glowing, we're going to affirm divine nature as zeal is awake within me. Say it with me. Divine nature as zeal is awake within me. And now we're going to move into a time of silence and stillness together for just a minute or so right now. And as we begin to bring our attention back to the current moment, let's take a chance to just shine that orange light of zeal all through the body. From there at the base of the skull, down through the neck, the shoulders and the arms, all the way to the tips of your fingers, back to the vertebrae, down through the chest. Feel that energy of enthusiasm all through the hearts and the lungs, the internal organs, through the grounding of your seat, through your legs, all the way down to your tippy toes. Just feel that orange light of zeal and light you up. And let's close our time of meditation with an affirmation. I express zeal as enthusiasm, devotion, and joy. Say it with me. I express zeal as enthusiasm, devotion, and joy. Let's do it one more time, okay? I express zeal as enthusiasm, devotion, and joy. And so it is, my friends. Thank you so much for being here today. And I am going to turn it back to our friend Andrea.
Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.